Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Digital Grocer. I'm your host, Sylvain Perrier, President and CEO of Mercatus Technologies. And joining me, as always, is my co-host, Mark Fairhurst, our VP. Mark, how are you?
I am well. I'm doing pretty good. Pretty good for a Sunday.
It's great. It's a little bit chilly outside. It's typical for kind of a Canadian summer. We get the highs and we get the lows.
Yeah.
We're doing something entirely different today. It's a short where we get to talk about some of the current events, things that are happening out there in the industry, and it is called In Between Two Beards.
That means we can't shave ever.
Never. We can never shave. And Mark was kind of contemplating. We hope that Zach, I can never pronounce his last name. Mark, what's his last name?
Zach Galifianakis.
Galifianakis doesn't
Yeah.
sue us.
Yeah.
And then we could always change it to In Between Two Maple Trees or something
I
a
can
little bit more kid.
put some maple syrup on the face.
Something. Yes, something. Maybe something
Well,
more appealing.
well, it's true. We do shave with maple syrup. It's a
We do.
little
Yeah.
known fact. Little known fact.
It's true. So a lot of great things happening out there in the space this week. I think the biggest news that came down from a text message that we both received from Progressive Grocer, breaking news, was the leadership change over at Instacart, where Apurva has decided now he's going to be moving into the role of executive chair, and Fiji Simo is going to be taking over as CEO.
Correct.
Bright young lady, 35 years old. She studied at the HEC over in France, was previously VP over at Facebook, brought into the board in early 2021, and likely tapped by the board to take over the role of CEO.
Yep.
And Mark, I want to get your take on it, but I think the before I get to that, I mean, the first person that really jumped on this to share with the industry was Gary Hawkins.
Mm-hmm.
And Gary, well-respected individual in the space, has been around forever. And he kind of said, what does this mean for retailers? And are people going to kind of wake up and see that unfortunately the individual that's taking over has no retail or grocery expertise? And I know, like, you can learn, but when you're leading such a critical organization at an interesting time, we would expect that there would be some sort of expertise in that space. But nonetheless, Mark, what's your thoughts?
Yeah. I mean, I read Gary's post as well. He and I, well, he and Mercatus are pretty well aligned in terms of, where we fall in terms of supporting the retailer's business. I mean, the fact is, Fiji and all the other Facebook executives that have joined in the last 6 to 8 months, they have expertise in running a consumer advertising business. That's what Facebook is. And I think that gives you a good sense as to where Instacart is going.
Yeah, well,
That was a slip of the tongue.
it was a slip of the tongue, but I think it's a valid. If there's ever a valid slip of the tongue, I think folks, you just heard it. The bigger concern that I see is when you're running an e-commerce business and you're in partnership with retailers, you're in partnership with the retailers' executives, with the way that they operate, the store employees, the way that they operate. You're there to support them to save on cost, make money, or get a better margin.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the essence of, I know that what we're trying to do here at Mercatus. But when I see what Instacart's doing and leaning now more towards these hires, I get concerned about a few things. We've seen a roster of changes. We've seen the CMO leave. We're not hearing anything from the president, Neelam, who was the face of the organization. We're certainly, we know that they changed out Jackie Chu, who was the CMO, lovely individual. And we don't know where she is now. So she's kind of moved on. And so you have a new CEO coming into place, and you have an executive chair who admitted in a blog post doesn't know what the role does.
Right.
And I'm concerned that the business model now is more about the advertising play, less about e-commerce, and the e-commerce is feeding the ad engine. And I start to wonder, wow, this is a good play for Facebook to acquire.
Yeah, yeah. It just came out in my emails this morning from eMarketer. Social commerce, $30 billion, and this past year. I mean, a lot of it fueled by pandemic sales, but that's excluding food and beverage and travel. Some of those consumer-focused, high-frequency purchase products. And we know Facebook has developed relationships with Shopify and with BigCommerce, probably a few other e-commerce platforms to further enable social commerce. So it's definitely a growing interest for that company.
Well, you recently bought coffee. I believe
Yep.
I can't remember the name of it. What was the name of that coffee brand that you just bought?
Rampage Coffee Company.
Yeah,
Yeah.
small Canadian company from out west, I
Yep.
believe.
Yep.
And let me guess, you bought it because you saw an advertisement on Instagram.
Absolutely. Hit
Yeah,
the shop button, and seamless experience, and a good product, but
yeah,
seamless
and
experience.
seamless experience. And this is what originally Google was trying to do when they acquired the Savers couponing platform, was tie it into their ecosystem, get access to transactional data, be able to go back to the CPGs and show proximity of what people were buying at the grocery store level, to be able to map them out a little bit more efficiently, and convince the market to pay more for the display advertisement that Google's so well known for. But that, unfortunately, that fell apart. But I remember being part of those conversations when Google was really courting the executives
Mm-hmm.
and promising. And I see now Facebook, if they could intertwine themselves into Instacart, they would just get, unfortunately, they would reach much deeper into our lives. And I get concerned because now a retailer is already challenged with not owning the experience, not being able to control what the product roadmap is, not accessing the additional revenue that Instacart is generating through
Right.
its platform. And then suddenly now, the retailers, not only are they've just become a shell where they're providing product to a third party, they could have their loyalty programs, trumped.
Yep. 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 Yeah. I mean, it's the ultimate vision of a branded warehouse.
Yeah, absolutely it is. Well, folks, thank you so much for listening to Mark and I share with you our thoughts and our opinions on some latest news that are out there. Don't forget to keep your ear to the ground for our latest and next podcast to drop, which I'm soon will be soon. Enjoy the rest of your weekend and have a great week.
Bye bye, folks.